Welcome to You Know Me, a podcast for Brunswick and the Golden Isles. I'm Buddha.
And I'm the Beard.
And we are here today at a place that I've been kind of looking forward to being in. And we're with
Keeva Kase.
Keeva Kase. And
do you want to start that over?
Yeah, Keeva Kase. And we're at the Communities of Coastal Georgia Foundation. Is that the correct name for it?
We're back on track.
Okay. And so, Keeva, why don't you kind of say hello and kind of talk about the foundation and how you got here and what we do here?
Sure. So the Communities of Coastal Georgia Foundation is a public 501c3 charity, and our mission is to strengthen our communities through engaged philanthropy in McIntosh, Glynn, and Camden counties. Although we make grants outside of this region, our primary focus is coastal Georgia. We were founded 19 years ago, 2005, so next year will be our 20th anniversary. Look out.
Nice.
And the goal was to allow people that have taxable events to find a way to have their funds through a tax shelter or charitable gift to have that money invested and last for as long as they want it to last, and let them give it out over time rather than have to make a gift at one time to one place in 1 year. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you sell a company and you have a $10 million taxable situation, and you can offset that with a charitable gift. There's not a lot of places that around here can take $10 million all at once. And you may not want to give it all at once. And so community foundations, which are over 100 years old, founded in Ohio, provide philanthropists the opportunity to let that money last over time so that they can give to multiple charities over many years, and even hand that fund down to a subsequent heir. Now, that money is no longer their money because they've donated it to the foundation, but we have what's called donor-advised funds, and that's where they recommend grants to us, and we make those grants. And we, last year, 2023, our little foundation, which hosts about $51 million in assets, gave out $5.5 million. Over the span of our 19 years, it's about $31 million. Wow. So those grants have gone to early childhood literacy, the environment, both sides of we'll give. One day we'll give to the pro-choice group, another day we'll give to the pro-life group, and they may wash each other out in the ethical ether. But the point is that we honor our fund holders' wishes, unless we have to use our variance power and change the direction of a grant that perhaps is like if there was a foundation set up to build wooden wagon wheels for in perpetuity, and here we are, not needing wooden wagon wheels anymore. There could be a better application for that
Absolutely,
funding.
yeah.
Or if somebody wanted to direct funds to an organization that is not a 501c3 organization, we can recommend one that is. Or if somebody wants to send something to an organization that maybe they need to know a little bit more about before they make that grant, we can work with them and say, hey, we know about this organization, and perhaps it's not in the best financial shape, or the leadership is kind of off right now. Here's an alternative. So we have a board of directors. That board of directors is diverse, representing all three counties. We have a small staff of 3 people. We're hiring right now, so if anybody wants to come and help me out, I'm looking for an executive services coordinator. And it sounds fancy.
It does sound fancy. You're going to have to job description on that.
Bring it on. It's on our website, coastalgeorgiafoundation.org. And it's probably the best job a man or woman could dream of having. I have a great team. I've got a great board. I've got over 100 fund holders here, and it includes more than just donor advised funds, which you'll see it sometimes listed out DAF, DAF. We have designated funds. So, for example, we hold the St. Simons Island. We just opened the St. Simons Island Library Fund. And that fund, all the money in there, for as long as that library is there, will go to that library. It can't go anywhere else. So they set an investment strategy. They set what they want to pull off annually. And we work with them to grow the fund. And that way that fund can be our tagline, for good, forever, for that library. We also have field of interest funds. So, for example, let's say the three of us wanted to get together and help out, let's say, turtles. And there's, we each had a couple of ideas of the organizations that we thought turtles would benefit the most from. We could go out and fundraise. People could give to that fund. We would give to that fund. And then we would give to a variety of turtle organizations, and that may change over time. That one may go out of business, and you need then a new turtle organization comes along, and then the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles come along, and then we had to redirect those funds. So we have we have the visitor center as you're coming on the island. We fund that. We have the Gold Medals Fund for trees. We have a variety of funds. We have a fund for the Okefenokee. We have a fund for coastal community health. So it's a diverse set of funds. They go to a great purpose out into our communities, and I'm thrilled to be the leader of this organization. I grew up here. I went to St. Simon's Elementary all the way through Glynn Academy, and I was most recently in Atlanta running an organization that focused on preventing people, primarily families, hardworking families who were at risk of losing their homes, from being evicted. And so we did eviction prevention work, housing work, financial education, debt relief for upwards, of 10,000 people across the state of Georgia.
Wow.
And so it was a great organization, the Buckhead Christian Ministry. We rebranded it BCM Georgia, so you're welcome to go look up bcmgeorgia.org if you want to support a statewide amazing organization that I proudly led for 6 years. And thank you, Atlanta. Thank you for BCM for training me up to be, a leader that was fortunate enough to get this job and to return to my home that I love so dearly, and be able to lead this to the next level. We've had some great leaders in this organization, and we're set for for as long as I can see myself walking through that front door. I will joyfully be involved in Golden Owl's philanthropy. So
that's awesome.
So thanks for the opportunity to be on your podcast.
Yeah.
You guys are awesome, and I hope that was sufficient. Let's have some fun.
We're happy to be here, and thanks for having us here. And so one of the things we're talking about with this foundation is the donations, how they come in. I was going through the website. There's a lot of different ways that can happen through inheritance.
Yep.
I might have like this, I have this IRA that's been sitting over here. I can transfer that over to you, right? Like an old IRA that.
So there are many different ways that you can start a fund here, and typically what it is you are looking for an opportunity to, like through inheritance, you have a windfall, and you are trying to establish a fund. And so yes, you can have an exit event from a business, an inheritance. There are some rules around 401k distributions because of the direct benefits. So we would have to have conversations around that, just so that everyone's clear. But there are a variety of ways. The difference between giving to a nonprofit organization directly, like No Kill, which I know you guys support and have done work and great on you guys for doing that work. I hope people will continue to support No Kill. We just adopted a dog on Saturday last week, so we're excited. And so giving directly to that organization, you still get your tax benefit. You still get all the things that the good feeling of supporting a local organization, supporting a mission, being a part of a mission. The difference here is, and we use this tagline, you don't give to the community foundation, you give through the community foundation, because of the special features of our work that allow us to provide the tax benefit, but also allow that funding to last forever. So, because it grows with the market. We invest it, And so, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask what the difference is between because I see it on your website, a charity and
Philanthropy.
philanthropy. Yeah.
Yeah, so that we talk about that on the website. Philanthropy thinks long term. We think about the charity is sometimes thought of as the here and now, right? There's a guy at your door that needs help. There's a dog about to not have a home. There's there's a children's home that needs new beds, and those things need to happen, right? We have a teach a man to fish, feed a man a fish mentality. You still got to feed the man a fish if he's hungry. You can also teach him how to fish.
Yeah.
Right? You can do both of those things, and both are good. The aim is, in the moment when someone's hungry, to satisfy that need in the moment would be considered charitable. We are technically a charity in the eyes of the IRS. We are a charity, but the way that our charitable giving works is looking at charitable giving for the long term. How do you set things up financially, just like you would your own household, so that your money lasts?
Yeah.
Right, and so that you can continue to give over time, and as that money sits in a fund, it grows, and you can continue to contribute to that fund as well over time. So we look at philanthropy, which is philos and anthros together. Philanthropy, anthros being man, philos being love, the love of man. It's not much different than loving the man in front of you when you're giving that person a sandwich and showing them kindness and generosity and love. So yes, there's a distinction, and it's sometimes important to draw that distinction. But I think overwhelmingly the idea is you have generous people who want to see a positive difference made because of the outcomes that they seek for the world. And we facilitate that, and we give people the opportunity to do that, not just once, but over and over again.
That's amazing.
Thanks, man.
And you just focus on the Golden Isles, McIntosh areas?
Yeah, so we give locally, and we have competitive grants locally in our 3-county region. But you have to remember, we have people that aren't from here. You're from Massachusetts, you're from Long Island, and let's say this podcast takes off and you get a Joe Rogan level contract with Spotify, and you want to have a fund here, the Buddha and the Beard Fund, and you guys may love your church or your synagogue or whatever whatever back home that you want to support. Well, you can run that through us. We'll send the check up over there. But the organizations that we are most desirous to support are obviously local.
Yeah,
but because you may have proclivities and interests in other communities, we're going to support that, right? So you may want to give to the alumni association of your law school at Vanderbilt, or give to the Duke marching band, or whatever it is, because we can give to 501c3 organizations. We can give to public institutions, so we can give to the police force, to the county commission, and we can give to religious organizations. And so location is not a limitation, but when it comes to the thrust of what we are setting out to do, it is to garner as much philanthropic momentum, energy, and resource for our 3 counties. And that's why I'm here and not in Atlanta doing this work. Atlanta's got its own $1 billion fund, and Frank's doing a great job up there. But they also give outside of Atlanta because people from Atlanta have interests outside. But yeah, the thrust is these 3 counties.
What's the requirement, or what to get a fund started, or to give out a grant to someone or to an organization here?
Well, at a minimum, you have to be a 501c3 charity or a public, agency or a religious institution, and be in good standing with the IRS. And we have different criteria for different programs. So, donor advised funds, right, which are recommended by the person that made the contribution to the fund initially, right? We can recommend things to them, but they're potentially already excited about the things that they're already excited about.
Right,
And they
yeah.
know what they want to give to, and they're going to give to what they're going to give to. That's fine, and we support that. There is also our Community Impact Committee, which focuses specifically on nonprofits in the 3 counties that compete through a grant process, meaning that they apply for funding,
Okay.
right? And then they go through, a rubric that evaluates the quality of their proposal, the durability and stature of their board and financial and fiduciary, office, and so ensuring that they have a strong mission, that they're doing something that is important in the community, that has a multiplier effect of being regional rather than just focused on one neighborhood, one city, one county, but amplifies their mission throughout coastal Georgia. And there are points that are awarded for those grants, but they're small grants. They're $10,000 grants, and we have $200,000 to give out. We're in the middle of that process right now, and we received 50 applications, and we'll have to narrow it down to 20 recipients across the 3-county region, and that's tough to do. And 10,000, isn't a ton of money. It's great money for a small, operation, but it is, unrestricted funding. Can go to your operations overhead. So we're trying to fund the unsexy, stuff that's hard to get funded. People want to give to direct, relief
Right.
or direct
Yeah.
services. They don't like, the fact that people got to get paid. Well, people got to get paid.
Right.
The lights have to be on. The internet has to be paid. And so we want to do the best we can to make the process of receiving those grants a meaningful experience, but also putting a nonprofit through the process of organizing their materials and stating their case is good for that organization.
Right,
It
yeah.
helps the ecosystem of nonprofits in our community to sharpen their offering, right? So they look at their mission statement and they say, well, maybe we should focus it a little bit, more on X and eliminate this because this has become a distraction. And as people go through those processes, they improve their organizations. They see that they have a gap on their board. They see that their budget is out of whack, that they're operating from a deficit, that they're filing their 990s with the IRS late. They're not getting audited. And so one of the things that a competitive grant process provides a nonprofit ecosystem is the rigor of having to open the kimono and show us what you got.
Right.
Let us see
What's going on?
Let us see what's going on.
Yeah.
Right? Are you doing what you say you're going to do? And so we don't put all of those nonprofits that are donor advised funds request when they recommend grants. We can't do that for the 5,000 grants that we've done in our
Yeah.
existence, but for the 20 that we're going to grant out from this current round of community impact awards, they're going to go. We're going to go visit them. We're going to spend time with their leadership. We're going to make sure that that they're going to spend this money wisely. A lot of that funding comes off of donor advisors, donor advised fund holders believing in our process, and so they give up a chunk of the money that they would otherwise be able to spend on things that they like to support the process of putting our nonprofits through this process. And I think it's encouraging when you see applications improve year over year because we have a great staff here. Laura Moore is our CFO. Anna Trapp is our program specialist, and Anna handhold some of, especially the newer nonprofits or ones that are newer to this process, helps walk them through our rubric. It helps them see the guidelines and understand the guidelines. We had online webinars to help train folks to apply. The college isn't going to apply for one of these grants, right? The hospital isn't going to apply for one of these grants, but court-appointed special advocates is going to apply for one of these grants.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The Humane Society is going to apply for one of these grants because these are the nonprofits that are doing direct service, and every dollar counts. Not that it doesn't count at the hospital or the college. Don't hear me. Don't get me wrong. But when it comes to this level of funding, we have a lot of small nonprofits where this type of money can make a big difference, and so that's another way of how we vet, to answer your question, how we vet and what the criteria is. Other criteria is that the Okefenokee has set up a fund where they're the only recipient, and unless they go sideways and become a for-profit corporation that's mining next to itself, there's not much that we can do. It's written into the agreement that they're getting the money.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we have to understand that it's a complex system of rules that allows different funding streams to hit different missions throughout our region and beyond. But we try to make it simple, right? The accounting for foundations is bananas. I'm so glad we have Laura on our team.
It's complicated.
It's so complicated.
It's so complicated.
And but that's also why we earn our living off of our fees.
Right.
And and those fees that we earn are because we make it simple for our people. There's a platform. You go on your phone. You can click make a grant out of my fund. Select which nonprofit you want to give to. Put an amount in there. Hit the button. Gone. You get your letter in the mail that you sent this, the check goes out, presto. But the sausage making that goes on behind the curtain is what makes it all worthwhile.
I bet. So you couldn't say, hey, I want to start a new animal shelter. I found a piece of land and it's like 10 acres and I want to have these climate-controlled kennels and have an on-site vet and all of a sudden have this great plan. I can't come to you for seed money. I have to be established already.
If you are a 501c3 organization, meaning that the IRS has determined you to be of charitable purpose and thereby contributions to your organization are tax deductible, you are eligible and you could have a donor that cares about what you're doing that comes and funds you. But if you were a couple of guys that just have some land and you bring in animals and, if there's no tax status, if there's nothing to verify that you could be making burgers in the back with it, for all I know. But if you've gone through the process of incorporating, getting your mission statement, having a board and doing all the proper steps, we can support you on day one.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. I mean, that's something that some people think, well, you have to be around for a while to get a grant or something like that. But you can actually use it as some seed money.
Certainly helps. It certainly helps. But, there are groups that have gotten their footing because of this foundation.
Right.
Right. And it's because donors have seen the value of a vertical that is slightly different from what this other group is doing, right? So like no kill became an issue, to bring it back, right?
Right.
So it's like that's different than animal rescue. We're going to have a no kill thing, so we're going to cut off our contract with county services because they're killing animals, right? And I'm not taking a side on either
Right.
one. That's not my hill to die on. But if you make that pivot, or if you start something new that's gonna be a slightly different mission, and somebody's jazzed about that, then they may fall in line and support you. So, I wouldn't exclude to any of our listeners, if you're out there doing a good job and you've got a good mission, you've got your IRS paperwork sorted out, and you can show us show us your receipts. We're interested in helping you out. So
That's amazing.
That's a really important part, and especially with Brunswick growing the way it's growing, having some more nonprofits, stuff that's really helping the community, because the community's growing, the community's maturing. That you'd have something that we could do more stuff with, whether it's maybe a foundation that's helping people getting back up on their feet. Sure. They had some hard times. Help them with their rent, like what you were doing in Atlanta, like helping them with the rent, or giving them a little extra money for food, things like that. So, or having a team of people that can drive them to work, so they have a way to getting to work because, people around here, you got to show up to work.
I'll give you a great example of differentiation within a particular social service sector. So think of housing insecurity and homelessness. And think about how the word homelessness, when you imagine homelessness, you probably have an image in your mind that is wholly accurate of one segment of the homelessness spectrum.
Right.
But it may not include the working single mother who is busting her ass every single day, getting her kids to school, showing up to work, but she had a, loss of hours, so she got evicted. And now she's in a motel with the kids, and every now and again she gets to stay in in an extended stay or she's not, they don't have to live in the car, or they're with a friend or a parent's house or something like that, but she's still going to work. This community has nothing for that segment, and we're scared of that segment because of our image of homelessness, right? So, and I'm not villainizing one and lifting up the other. People that are down on their work and down on their luck and experiencing hardcore homelessness that is chronic and long-term and riddled with addiction and mental health and lack, relational poverty, and circumstances, disabilities and all the things that come along with chronic homelessness. That's tough. That's a tough existence. But the services that are required to support that individual are vastly different than the services that are required to help get that working mother with a child off of, back up on her feet and out of that situation.
Right.
And it's a vastly different. So you would have two entirely different nonprofit organizations that have entirely different mission statements, that have entirely different case management practices, curricula, supportive, the services that they provide. One may have addiction recovery, mental health services, connection to the VA, all those things. The other may just have, some debt remediation, some housing assistance, and some transportation.
Right.
And those are, but they're in the sector of homelessness. And so we do need, to your point, a variety and a diversity of nonprofits in our community that focus on specific, and sometimes narrowly different, but specific groups. And so I want to encourage people out there that have a heart for a specific community or a specific demographic who are thinking, oh, well, that group's got it covered, or that group's got it covered. I mean, think about Covenant House. It's Covenant House International is, they help homeless teens, right? Teens that have been kicked out of their homes or don't have a home, or there's domestic violence in their home or abuse, and they have nowhere to go. They found a sliver of the homelessness population to focus on.
Right.
And what happened? They skyrocketed in terms of their ability to fundraise because, they got hyper-focused on one demographic and did it really, really well. Right. But if you're trying to be all things to all people, and you not only confuse the ecosystem, right? Oh, they're home. They're dealing with those people, and it's like no. We have this specific demographic that we're trying to help, and here is the intervention, the precise intervention that works. And so we focus on the outcomes, and maybe those outcomes aren't, the guy that is living on the streets for 15 years with, maybe that outcome is simply to have permanent shelter for that person every night.
Right. Yeah.
And it's not, you have to go to work every day. You've got to be a tax-paying citizen. You got to do, it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
Because of the mountain of challenges and barriers. So the outcome is different. But over here, you've got an able-bodied 18-year-old that needs somebody to put their arm around him and say, hey, buddy, let's see about how we can finish that GED. Let's see. And maybe the outcome is tax-paying, contributing member of society that can, give back at some point, serve on a nonprofit board and prevent the next kid from coming into the system. Two vastly different outcomes, but we have to have those outcomes, and we have to say them out loud. We have to write them down, and then we have to measure whether or not those organizations achieve those outcomes.
Right.
Because right now what we do is we measure outputs. How many activities do I do every day that get my help all over people.
Right.
Right.
You know, like I feel good all about it, but I'm not necessarily producing anything. So we work with a network. I'm just going to talk because y'all are giving me the airtime.
Yeah.
So we work with the St. Mary's Methodist Church Foundation down in St. Mary's, and we are working in a partnership with them with an outfit. It's a faith-based organization out of Joplin, Missouri. I hope that got that right. Called True Charity, and they are sort of the next step from a book that was written by Reverend Robert Lupton up in Atlanta. He is a giant in the field of nonprofit positive critique. I'll put it that way. He wrote a book called Toxic Charity. You may have heard of it before, but it's about this notion of counting outputs and activities and getting help all over people for the good intentions of the world that really do want to help. They just there's not a model, there's not a framework, there's not a structure. There's just people are suffering, and I got to do something. And there's a place for that, but it needs to be harnessed, directed, and channeled to an outcome. And so he said we've got to dismantle our charitable industrial complex, which doesn't get anything done except for making people feel good. What true charity has done is taken that philosophy and put it into tools and resources and a network, a national network. And we are now sponsoring member network ambassadors down here in Southeast Georgia. And True Charity has now named Southeast Georgia as one of their hubs that they're going to start doing a lot of work here to support us. So we co-hosted with the St. Mary's Methodist Church Foundation at the church in their fellowship hall. 70 nonprofit leaders, I think representing 40 plus nonprofit and public and faith-based organizations came, drove to St. Mary's, and sat for a full day seminar on this type of work. And they're kind of a startup as well, but they're trying to provide tools and resources for mapping success and for measuring what matters and for eliminating the toxic elements of charity and entitlements and things like that don't move the needle for anybody. In fact, may make things worse. So we're working with True Charity. You should check them out. It's a great opportunity to, if you're one of our nonprofits locally, we'll pay for half of your membership. And so that's some of the tools that a community foundation operating in an ecosystem can marshal forward. The singular nonprofit doesn't have time to look up and look for, where are the best practice, standard, where are the tools? Where are the roadmaps? Where have the folks in, Biloxi, Mississippi gotten this thing right?
Right.
You wouldn't know it, but there are groups in certain areas that have fixed stuff. They've actually fixed it. They've solved the problem. And if you're head down, nose in the mission, and you don't have a broad view and a network of people looking out for you, you may not ever figure your way out of doing the day-to-day activities. And so you think you're still getting the mission done, but nothing's changing.
Right.
We've got this book over here, Trying Hard is Not Good Enough. That's an academic book about how sometimes we just keep working and working and working and nothing changes.
Right.
And that's an endemic. Often, I should say it's not endemic. It's a problem in the nonprofit sector because it's a lot of folks that really want to help folks out, and it's and there's typically not a business model.
Yeah, well, exactly, and that's what it's like you really have to have a very pointed mission statement for these nonprofits, for these charitable causes. It sounds like, because you're using the homeless example, because you could be painting with a very broad brush when you really want to focus on one sector of that issue. And so having a very important, very pointed and result-driven mission statement is probably one of the most important things to start with.
Absolutely. If somebody said we're gonna measure Apple's success by the number of people who show up to work every day and turn knobs, but no iPhones came out on the other side, or no stores sold
Exactly.
them, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But we typically do that when it comes to hunger. We'll show up and say, we're going to solve hunger by just pushing food out the door and counting the number of bags. Well, if the number of bags that go out the door goes up, doesn't that mean that hunger's getting worse?
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost like using the analogy, like you see a brush fire and you're like, oh, somebody probably already called that in, but nobody ever called that in.
Sure.
So the fire just keeps on burning because everyone thinks somebody called the fire department to come put it out, and nobody did.
Yeah. So for us at this community foundation, our goal is to ensure that our ecosystem of nonprofit partners, and we have a lot of good nonprofits here, a lot of good ones. The Land Trust has saved like $45 million worth of land on St. Simon's. I mean,
That's amazing.
Crazy good stuff.
Yeah.
And we know how, I'm not going to say the hard streets of St. Simon's, but it's starting to get a little tough over there to get around with your vehicles. And I grew up on this island where we had one blinking yellow light.
Yeah.
And, Winn-Dixie was a forest. And so... and now we need like 3 more grocery stores to accommodate the growth.
And I've heard this before, that St. Simon's is about the same size as Manhattan.
12 by 4.5.
Yeah.
Yep. So, but yeah, you've got these great organizations on the island. You've got Safe Harbor right around the corner. For better or worse, the Wells handling some of the hardest hit folks that nobody else can handle, and has caused a lot of controversy. But somebody's got to get in the mix with that.
Yep.
You've got startup radio stations. You've got the Glynn Visual Arts. You've got beds in McIntosh. You've got chambers of commerce. In all 3 places. So there are organizations that Morning Star, man.
Oh yeah.
The old boys' home. I mean, they take some of the hardest cases for abandoned kids that have very limited options for reunification or for adoption because of a number of physical or mental or behavioral struggles. And as they age, you get to 18, and that used to be the age in out age. I think it's 21 now in Georgia. I know in other states it's gone up. I need to look that up. Sorry, if somebody could research that and send me an email, that'd be great. But you get to 21 and you have no services. Where are you going to go?
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
Where are the homes?
What happens?
So, if somebody had a intervention or a pipeline or an exit plan for these kids, at 22, they would have a program that could put, that's going to gain support, because look how narrow that focus is. We take the kids out of Morningstar and have them help us down at X business, and they have a meaningful existence, and we keep them, safe and fed and happy, and maybe that's the outcome.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's good enough, in my opinion.
That is, because if not, they would have just been right on the street, and then the whole problem would have just continued in a cycle.
And the cost of that is immeasurable, both to the moral fabric of a community, but also the financial burden it puts on a community to have, people unsheltered who are forced to commit crimes, of desperation, or because of mental breaks, they commit, unfortunate, activities. And so, I want more nonprofits in the space that are looking at outcomes, and I want the nonprofits that are, counting the wrong things and not moving the needle on anything to rethink their missions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I know that it's not easy to write a mission statement.
Oh, gosh.
A lot of times. It's actually quite difficult. Knowing from experience, I've been in business for 30-something years, and we've had my fair share of sitting down writing mission statements for one thing or another. Do you have like a kind of like a consulting group or a time where someone can come in and you can help them with their mission statement?
Sure. So, there is a wonderful resource in this community at the College of Coastal Georgia called the Lucas Entrepreneurship Center. Ande Notcase is, if we don't cement her feet to Glynn County, somebody's going to steal her from us. She's amazing. And we need to figure out how to keep her here. She's got this entrepreneurship center humming. It got like an international award. Our little college has an internationally awarded entrepreneurship center. But they have a nonprofit program as well. And I am, it's 7. That's almost. It's up past 8 o'clock. I'm not going to remember the name of that It's like Impact or something like that. Something catchy and collegey and entrepreneurial. But it's about helping nonprofits figure out, should I do this? And what's the mission? And am I cut out for this? And what's it going to take to sustain it over time? Or do I have a terminal mission? I mean, maybe the mission is, to reach a certain number of bald eagles. And once we reach that certain number, we don't have to exist anymore because we've fixed our problem. Now, maybe another group comes in and says, our mission is to sustain the number of bald eagles. But the other group's mission was to get so they have their activities and goals are going to be how many eggs did we protect, how many eggs were laid, how many birds were sick, how many were healthy. The other may be focused on threats and so my point, and maybe that was a terrible example, but my point is that there is a resource in this community and it is awesome. And so look up the Lucas Entrepreneurship Center. It was founded with gifts from a guy here named Art Lucas and Lindy, and they have done amazing things in our community generally from a philanthropic standpoint. Art's the former chair of this board here at the foundation, and check it out. They've got resources for nonprofits, and I'm always willing to talk to anybody. As you can tell, I'm a chatty Cathy, but I will help my only industry that I've ever worked in, other than frying onion rings at Brogan's when I was in high school.
Oh, good
they're good, aren't they? Oh, boy, I could have some fried mushrooms. Come on now. But the only industry I've ever really worked in is nonprofit. Yeah.
And that's good because I think a lot of people, there are people who have a very giving heart and they want to help, but they don't know how or where to get started. Yep. So having the Lucas entrepreneurship is a place to start where you can come in with your idea and they can help you put that idea on paper and then they can come see you and you can take it from paper to something that's actually...
Well, Ande's going to take them from paper to life or take them from paper to death. She has nonprofits that realize going through the program that they ain't cut out for this. The mission isn't good enough. It doesn't serve there's no market really for it. They thought that there was a good idea, but it's not really serving this area. Maybe there's a different market over here that could, And so some people walk away, and that's a good thing. That's a really good thing to learn that this thing not going to happen. But for those that have a fighting chance and they get their act together, and they start their nonprofit, they get it going. That's when I want to talk to them. Is once they have their, and I can talk to them at any point in this, but that's what Ande does best. But our goal at the foundation is to be able to support those organizations with funding, right? So if I had to scaffold up all these organizations and pay for them, that would be a job that would put me to an early grave.
Right, that's a lot of work.
So we focus on the funding side of things. We want to make sure that we have the resources in place, that we manage our money well, and then it grows over time so that we have more resources over time to give to more organizations and to give more to organizations. So like I said, we have $51 million right now in assets. We are teeny tiny in the space of community foundations, Silicon Valley Community Foundation took in like $12 billion last year. So just to give you an example of and they were started the same year we were. So just to give you a sense of, what resources we have and don't have.
That's economies of scale right there.
Well, yes. And it's also, ours was started with a bunch of great folks. Bill Jones III, Dewey Benefield, and a handful of others got together, in 2005 and solicited a bunch of friends and said, we need to start a community foundation. And part of that was soliciting initial gifts to get us going, right? Yeah. But once they got us going, we didn't have the billionaire class here in 2005. Sea Island was for Atlanta's millionaires. We're now for the world's billionaires, so who knows what's coming this way? Yeah. I don't know. But we are preparing ourselves for some of the incredible economic development that's happening. We have to be mindful of that economic development in light of the goose that laid the golden egg, a.k.a. the Golden Isles. and making sure that we are protecting our natural resources and the
Right.
beauty, that we're not overrunning our beaches, that we're not destroying our infrastructure, that we're not, gentrifying, our communities unfairly, that there's a plan. And we, this hasn't been a well-planned area. It never has been, and that's part of the fun. But we are preparing for Hyundai to have, this massive plant.
Yeah.
And we're preparing for Pigmental Studios, putting in
Yeah.
a million square feet of film studio soundstage down in Camden
Yeah,
County.
and then what will Buc-ee's bring?
Oh, my-
Buc-ee's can bring in other anchors.
Yep.
So like a rumor, not for here, but rumors I've heard around Buc-ee's is anytime there's a Buc-ee's, if you notice, there's a Costco.
Uh-oh.
So who knows, right?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of infrastructure just around that exit that just going to have to happen, because right now that's just a 2-lane road, and there's going to be a lot of people coming off the exit, northbound, southbound. You have to accommodate for that traffic. So that area, that the on and off ramp for that exit, the road going to Buc-ee's, that part of 99, that all has to expand.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there's going to be a line of cars going down the freeway just to get off the exit to get to Buc-ee's.
Yeah, I've been to the Buc-ee's in St. Augustine, and that ramp is like just loops around with cars.
And that's my exit that I take to work.
Oh, God. Well, my point is, and Buc-ee's a part of it, the economic development, Golden Isles we're on the map in a way that we've never been on the map before. It's like back-to-back years, whatever the travel and leisure #1 islands. We just were in Kiplinger's, Brunswick made the list for best for snowbirds. My guess is, they mean Brunswick and the Golden Isles, but the fact is that, when I was growing up and I went to Berry College in Rome, Georgia, and I would say that half the people that were at Berry College who were from Georgia had never heard of St. Simon's Island. That's not the case anymore. You go to anywhere in America, and people know Sea Island. They know the Golden Isles. It's a different scenario, and so I think we have to prepare ourselves. We've got the Okefenokee, my girl in the swamp, Kim Bednarik, who's leading the charge over there. They're looking to get a UNESCO World Heritage designation. And that's
nice.
We hosted an event for him here. I'm on the advisory board for that bid, along with Bill Jones, which is great, and Champ Bailey, one of our favorite football players, and we are working to get this UNESCO designation, and it puts it on the map with the Grand Canyon. It puts it on the Great Tetons. It's like there's a lot of cool stuff down here,
Right?
And there's a lot of energy, and it's also really good for business.
It is.
Governor Kemp has done a great job keeping our state open, despite all the whatever you think about it. Georgia's surged. We have a budget surplus. We've got more money than ever because of his leadership, and I think that this state is poised to have some incredible economic growth over the next 50 years. And so if we're setting up this foundation in a way that can be good forever, we've got to build, a robust infrastructure of nonprofit agencies that are prepared to scale, to support that growth, to support new kids in our school systems, to support new families that are going to need affordable housing because they're our cops, our baristas, our janitor services. We're going to have some big conversations about infrastructure, and the nonprofit sector is a great big player in all that.
Yeah.
Right.
Forward Brunswick is an organization that's run by my friend and city commissioner Lance Saby, and we're investing some money into $500,000 into his, I think it's like an $8.5 million project to build 46 below market rate units over here, the Reynolds cottages.
Yeah.
So he'd be a great guy to interview about kind of affordable housing and what they're attempting to do. But we need 10 of those now.
Yeah.
We need 10 of those situations now for our teachers, for our cops, for our firefighters, for the clerks, for the average Joe that's, that wants to, live in downtown Brunswick and have a chance of making it on not a lot of money. So we need to figure out ways that people can live on not a lot of money.
Right.
So there are innovations that the nonprofit space can do when supported by the private sector and often the public. So that project is slated for some, if it goes well, for some serious statewide money. So we've got a lot of good stuff going on here. We just got to get prepared. We got to build resources. We got to build our assets and be prepared to deploy in the smartest and I think most transparent and most efficient ways to ensure that, for example, Pigmental Studios is successful.
Right. I want them to be successful.
We want them to be successful.
Yes.
They need a film industry workforce. They don't have that workforce.
No, not yet. And
we're working with them on that. So
speaking of film, because my wife had written a movie and we filmed a movie, just a short, but we went out to Mammoth Lakes, California for a film festival, and everyone there was pretty much from the LA area, or somewhere on the West Coast. There's some people from Idaho and Nebraska. And when we meet these people, we tell them we're from Georgia, and we talk about the film industry, and we say, well, we're getting a lot more business in the film industry in Georgia. And like, yeah, I wonder why that's happening. Like, well, I can tell you exactly why it's happening. It's a non-union state.
Made in Georgia.
There's just, I mean, to dumb it down, I mean, it's just financially better to film here than in LA or anywhere else, because you don't have to deal with the heavy cost of dealing with unions and paying the premiums that they usually demand. And so bringing in studios to Atlanta, bringing studios down here into Southeast Georgia, all the work they're already doing in Savannah, because they filmed a lot in Savannah. And everyone that worked on my wife's movie, they're from SCAD.
How about that?
They're SCAD. The director and the cinematographer were two guys that I know, but the sound, the lighting, everything else, the actors, one was a SCAD graduate, and the rest of the crew were all SCAD students. And so there's actually could be a strong work base for these studios out of SCAD, because I can tell you the guys that worked on that movie, even though it was a little short, were fantastic.
I bet.
They were professional, they were go-getters, they were great. So there's a strong foundation for building really good studio magic here in Georgia, whether it's in Atlanta or down here in the southeastern part. So there's a lot going on with that.
There is, and we all want it to be successful. I would like for, the next, blockbuster, film. We just need one or two.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just one or two killers that set us up for success. But as great as SCAD is, they need 1,000 workers to produce these films.
Yes. Oh my God.
Gaffers, key grips, lighting, stage, all the tech. Get me coffee. It's like they need all this stuff, and set design and so we've spoken with them about this, and they are looking to invest into their own workforce, and they need support, and the foundation can play a role in that. And so I'm not saying that there's anything going on right now or yet, but we're in conversations with them about what could a film industry workforce training program look like if driven through Coastal Pines, the college, through even Camden High School. Like, that's one of the best high schools in Georgia. Right. And so that Navy base has created kind of this isolated diamond not even in the rough, in a beautiful place. There's just not a lot of people.
Yeah.
Well, there's going to be a lot more people.
Exactly.
Yeah. So embracing the growth with a conservation mindset that is people first is, I think, a good philosophy when thinking about the vibe that we're trying to put out as a community. One of the things I think Brunswick could do, and I'll run till you might have to put another tape in there because I got but one of the things I think Brunswick could do from a branding perspective is stop thinking of itself and us stop thinking of it as a mainland for the island.
Yeah.
It's a coastal city.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a coastal city. Whether it likes it or not, There's no more room on there is room on St. Simon's, but no, there's not. And people are learning quickly that living on the north end of the island is tough if you want to get off the island for any kind of life.
Yeah, we did a podcast with Mr. Tim Cutting, who's the captain out there.
Yep.
And it was on the north end. And
At Hampton River?
yes.
Yep.
And that was my first time ever going up that way. And I could not believe it just kept on going.
It's a hike, man.
It is a hike. And I'm like, when is this going to end? Like, when am I going to fall off this island?
And you can't infill out there anymore. You know, let Frederica be the end of it, please, and let's preserve the rest of the island and figure out how to make Brunswick a coastal city. Yeah. And the brand of a coastal city makes it so much cooler than the mainland to the islands.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so when people think of, I want you to think about who has the best sunrises, other than maybe East Beach and Gould's Inlet, in coastal Georgia. Definitely Cumberland and Sea Island and anybody facing east is going to have some baller, but you're looking out just over the oceans. Mm-hmm. What is our famous poem? But it's Marshes of Glynn. And so where does he look out over it? Right here,
the marshes.
Right at the marshes. Well, you know who has that view? Or shut down Popeyes and a bunch of and McDonald's and a CBD shop, and they get to see the best sunrise in coastal Georgia. That's McDonald's gets it, they, a Waffle House and I think a Goodwill drop-off center and Winn-Dixie parking lot get the best views in the Golden Isles, and we haven't thought about that. We haven't thought about putting in workforce housing from there all the way down Glynn Avenue to connect that to downtown with a light rail trolley that brings people back and forth. I mean, there's so many opportunities. And with Panova being gone,
oh yeah, that's a prime.
I'm calling it. We're gonna have a Savannah Bananas competitor. We're gonna be the Golden Rays.
The Golden Rays, there we go.
Yeah, named after the ship that flipped over in the Sound. We're going to be the Golden Rays.
I think I know who you're talking to.
That's right. So I want to see something at the mouth of this this causeway.
I agree.
That is not a smokestack stinking up town. Now, granted, it paid a lot of people for a long time, and it was part of the industry that my mother worked in the mills at Brunswick Pulp and Paper. The pup mill was our life for 30 years. So I got nothing against this industry. But the times are changing, and we've got to embrace that. And so this needs to be a people first, environment, and people first design. Yeah. Think about how people want to live.
Yeah.
We want to live light. We want to be able to enjoy finer things and do that on a budget, and it's possible in a town like this.
Yes, it is. No, it is. And that's one of the reasons why we do this podcast is that so people can learn about some of these things that you can do. That's not going to break the budget. First Friday.
Yep.
Yeah. That's always a good time.
Unimaginable when I was growing up here. Unimaginable. First Friday is a phenomena.
Yes.
And I, as a native son who loves coastal Georgia, I could not have dreamt of something like that.
Yeah.
Because Brunswick was not the place for that stuff.
No.
So you were getting out of Brunswick at 5 o'clock. Now people want to come into Brunswick at 5 o'clock. I want to go to Stroglo. I want to go to Schroeder's. I want to go to,
Tipsy's,
1509, Tipsy, Silver Bluff.
Reed's.
I want to go to all these places. Yeah. They're great. The food's good. The service is good. The people are awesome. The vibe's cool.
Yeah.
We've got a dope situation in coastal Georgia that I think if we can get our minds straight about who we are and whose we are, and don't let people overrun us, but let's set some standards. And I think there's some leaders that are doing that now.
Yeah.
I'm excited about young leadership in this community. Our United Way just got a new CEO. The St. Mary's Foundation just got a new CEO. We've got a lot of great things going on. So, I appreciate the fact that you guys are out here spending. You're both busy men. You're helping, the USDA and educating our
future law enforcement
people about don't let what was the name of that worm?
The parasitic nematode, but you also have the spotted lanternfly.
Let's hear it. Let's do a whole podcast on this.
Asian longhorn beetle, emerald ash borer. I mean, these are all invasive insects.
Don't bring that into our country, or Mike's gonna blow you up.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and you're a controller at the Steel
Chatham Steel.
So you just came in from Savannah, and it's almost, it's past 8:30 right now, and you guys are doing this after hours on your own dime.
Yep.
If you can contribute to, I don't know if you have Patreon or whatever, but subscribe, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, we're getting there.
To support these guys, because they're out here platforming some of the cool stuff that's going on in this town. And so I hope your supporters and I hope your listeners like this podcast and continue to support you guys. And I hope that you guys feel inspired by what you're doing. And I feel great having spent some time with you guys. What else you got for me? I could keep going.
Well, we appreciate everything that your foundation does.
Thank you.
It's foundations like yours that help those nonprofits be funded. Because without your donors, without you, I mean, these nonprofits, they might not have a place to find money or have money to keep on going by feeding the homeless or sheltering that mom with one kid that needs housing. So we appreciate everything that your foundation does for the Tri-County.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, this is great. And I was really excited that you guys reached out to us to be on here, because this was kind of one of my target places to come to and talk to you all and find out more about it, because people need to know that there are places that give people hope. Really, when it comes down to it, and there's to have that goodwill, and because you just can't rely. Most people are so serving, not in a bad way, but they just don't feel like, I just can't give you $5 right now. I can't donate. I've got my own bills to pay, so it's being harder and harder to kind of raise money in a charitable way to sustain some of these nonprofits, where having you guys here at such a nice level, even though it may be small compared to other communities, but the war chest, I call it war chest, you guys built is huge for this area.
It's I stand on the shoulders of giants. This is obviously not I don't take this lightly. I am very grateful for the opportunity that this board and this community has given me to come home and lead this organization. I wake up every day filled with appreciation and gratitude to this community and to our board and to the staff. I mean, it's just we're three little people that are just doing the best we can, but we're doing the best we can, standing on top of the work of some of the people in this community that stepped forward and gave sacrificially to make this thing happen, and then stewarded it over time using conservative investment policies and smart defensive strategies when the market's bad, and a little bit more aggressive strategies when things were looking up, and did it well and grew it over time, and not only just grew it but gave it away. It's not just $50 million; it's 30-something million in grants that's out there, and that's from the growth and the stewardship that has allowed our community foundation to do what it's done. I appreciate you saying we have our war chest, but we have got to build this war chest up because of what's coming, the demands that are going to be put on our nonprofits. We think we have an issue with chronic homelessness right now, but if we don't look at other cities and figure out what they've done to solve the issue, we're going to be overwhelmed. We're going to be overwhelmed if we don't figure out. Thank God we've got all this conservation that's happened on St. Simon's, and Cumberland's precious and safe, but you never know. You never know, so you got to keep your eye on the prize, and so if we're going to maintain the integrity and the beauty of a place, right? There's a value to a place. And if we understand what this place is and we want it to be for good forever, then we have to be ready for what's coming. And I think it's going to be awesome if we do it right.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely going to be a continued growth of population here. People are moving here. People are recognizing the area. Even my friends up north kind of know about Brunswick and St. Simon's now, because they've seen stuff in the news. And like, oh, that's where you live.
Not even bad on news, but good. I mean, like Guy Fieri, how many episodes of Triple D did he film?
Right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Go Del Sur, man.
Yeah, Del Sur.
And
Reeds.
Reeds. I don't think that episode came out yet.
It didn't. Oops! Did I just spoiler alert?
Spoiler alert.
but they had a restaurant rescue with moon doggies, and I mean, there's the ghost hunters. A long time ago, they're down here downtown for a weekend.
Y'all don't remember this, but Born on the 4th of July was filmed here. Tom Cruise and Denzel Washington, which is the story of the burning of Darien. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's absolutely a wonderful film. It's not. I got the guy wrong. It's Ferris Bueller. Help me out. It's killing us all.
Glory. You're talking
Glory, not Born on the 4th of July. That is Tom Cruise. I'm thinking of Glory.
Glory with Matthew Broderick.
Erase what I just did. Matthew Broderick.
Yeah. Glory with Matthew Broderick and Denzel
on Andrews Beach.
Most people may not make it to that part in the podcast where I just shamefully switched out Glory and Born on the 4th of July. But yeah, I mean, I remember when Glory was filmed over there, and it was just such a big deal.
Yeah.
And just imagine that happening like once a month, where there's like a blockbuster down here, making films, and who knows what will come of it. I don't want to become the next Hollywood. I don't want to become the next Silicon Valley. I want to become the best version of the Golden Isles that we can possibly be. And but I am thrilled at the prospect of the industry that's coming this way, and I'm thrilled with the philanthropy that's participating in ensuring that we remain good forever.
Exactly. And as long as you're building new buildings, you got to buy our steel.
So as we're closing out here, we haven't really asked this question in a while.
Yeah.
But what would you like to see either in downtown Brunswick or even somewhere in the Golden Isles? What would you like to see come in? Like, what is your...
Other than the Golden Rays, I do think light rail from the mouth of the Causeway to downtown Brunswick would be amazing. I think that you'd have to build in some housing, and I mentioned this, some live, work, play down Glynn Avenue. But beyond that, I think what Brunswick hasn't had in kind of many years is an identity. Right, that unifies its city, and so my view is that Brunswick should not be considered the mainland.
Right.
I really think that the identity should be a coastal city, and embrace its cityhood, embrace the good and the bad. I mean, Ahmaud Arbery happened here. I mean, it's historic stuff has gone down here, right? I mean, we have a story to tell. Lord Harrington and the Harrington schools, the Gullah Geechee. We've got
even Glenn Academy being like the second school,
oldest school in Georgia.
Georgia, yeah.
There's so much history, and so I think building our narrative, building our identity, and owning that identity before we're overrun. I said earlier, know who you are and whose you are, and that attracts people. People like to be a part of a winning team, right? But if you're a tale of two cities, if you're we think it's all fine and dandy, and then a 17-year-old gets murdered down the street, and and we see what's going on.
Yeah,
3 blocks over, we know it. And those are our brothers and sisters that I think have to be included in that picture.
They do.
They really
100%.
do. And they have to benefit from the spoils of what's coming this way. And I think that requires engagement and people first mentality.
Yep.
So,
amazing.
Yep.
Amazing.
Well, everyone who's listening, 1, thank you for listening. 2, if you ever wanted to start a nonprofit, a 503.
501c3.
501c3.
That's right.
If they wanted to do something to help this community better, this is the place to come to. The professor at the entrepreneurial
Yeah, Ande Nokes at the Lucas Entrepreneurship Center. You should check her out.
Is another great resource. If you've got an idea for
True
something,
Charity. Go check out True Charity.
there's stuff there. So if you feel like you have a giving heart, if you feel like you want to do something to help this community or help not just Glynn County but McIntosh and Camden, there are resources out there to help you build that dream.
Yes.
And if you want to be a donor also.
Yep. CoastalGeorgiaFoundation.org.
Awesome. Well,
Check us out.
We really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks
being
so
on.
much. Yeah.
This is awesome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's do it again.
Absolutely.
Definitely, yeah. Ready? Good night.